Lesson 1-5, Solving Inequalities. In this lesson, we will solve inequalities and graph inequalities. But to start with, let's talk about the difference between an inequality and equation and go over some vocabulary. So what is the difference between an inequality and an equation? Well, there's a couple of differences. So with an equation, we typically get a finite set of answers. So there's usually one answer, two answers, or three answers. So some set number. With an inequality, there's really an infinite amount of numbers. Now there's some restrictions on that, like it might be everything greater than 5, or everything less than -1. Or it could be infinitely many or no solutions, just like with other equations. So that's going to be one of the big differences. Okay, so let's write that down. So the number of solutions. Okay, so the number of solutions. And then another difference is going to be the symbols that we use. So in equation, we use the equal sign. Put that in quotes, so that's the symbol that we use. With inequalities, we use the greater than, less than signs. So something like this or like this, or it could be greater than or equal to or less than or equal to. So those are the symbols that we would be using for inequalities. Now to solve, we're still going to use the same rules. So basically we just ignore the middle sign and we still follow the same rules of solving. So we need to add and subtract, multiply and divide. We have to worry about grouping symbols, all of that stuff. Now there is one important difference that we need to remember. Okay, so we need to reverse the inequality symbol when we multiply or divide by a negative number. And our variable of the solution does have to be on the left. So typically that's the way we write it with equations, but inequalities it has to be on the left side. Okay, so let's kind of talk about what this part means though. So here are some examples. So let's say we have -3x less than 12, and we are going to solve that. So because we would have to divide by a negative, that means that we are flipping that inequality symbol to point the other direction. So we would divide, we're flipping our inequality, and then writing our answer. Again, variable is on the left side. So now if we look at it, so slight difference, similar problem. Let's say we take 3x less than -12. Now here, when we divide, so we would divide both sides by 3, we are dividing by a positive number, so the rule does not apply. We're going to keep that inequality symbol flipped the same direction. Again, x is on the left side. Okay, so if we divide by a negative, we flip the inequality. If we divide by a positive, we don't flip the inequality. And that applies to multiplication as well. Okay. Now, let's say we have something like this. So again, we would still divide both sides by 4. And then we would have 3 less than x. Well, this is not on the left side. So when we flip it, so we really are just flipping it around, we also need to flip the inequality symbol. So it's going to look like this for our final answer. Okay, so we have to flip our solution around so that variable is always on the left side. Now again, here are our symbols. We talked about it a little bit already. So here we have our equal sign. Okay. And then this is the greater than sign. So greater than. Now sometimes it gets a little confusing. Well, how do I remember which one's greater than, which one's less than? If we think of a number line. So I'm just going to draw one. So here's our number line. 0 somewhere in the middle here. The greater than symbol points towards the positives. So the bigger number. So it points to the positives. Okay. So also if we were shading, that points to the direction you would shade. Now this one is the greater than or equal to sign. So greater than or equal to. So the equal to is when you have that extra bar underneath. Okay? So that means that this one is going to be the less than or equal to sign. And then this one is just less than. So again, if we notice, if you think about it on the number line, it's pointing this way. So it points to the negatives, so the smaller numbers. So that's the way I remember it. So whichever direction it's pointing, so if it's pointing to the negatives, it's the less than. If it's pointing towards the positives, it's greater than. Now we are going to be graphing. So we're going to be graphing right on a number line. So there is some symbolism that we need to know when we do graph. So on our number line, we are going to have an open circle if it's the non-equal to signs. So we would have just the greater than symbol or the less than symbol. And we're going to draw an open number line. So for example, let's say that we had x, and I'm going to do less than 3. When we graph that, so I'm going to make some numbers here, so I'm just going to do 3 tick marks. I'm going to put my answer in the middle, and then 1 above, 1 below. We would have an open circle, and then we would shade towards the negatives. So it would look like this for our graph. The closed circle means that we're including that number. So the open circle means that we don't include 3 as part of our answer. Every tiny little number up to 3, but not 3 itself. So if it's a closed circle, that means that we are including that number. So that's going to be the equal to. So if it looks like this or this, then we have a closed circle. So let's say we had x, greater than or equal to 3. So if we draw that same number line, so 3 in the middle, 1 on each side. This time when I make my circle, I'm going to shade it in so that it's closed. And then since it's greater than, it's pointing towards the positives. That's the way I'm going to shade. And make sure when you do this that you shade right on the number line. Do not put it above it. It has to go right on the number line. Okay? So make sure you don't forget about the shading. If you just put a number line on there without any shading, that would actually be an equation. That's your equal to.